Hi there, esteemed audience, and welcome to another episode of Middle Grade Ninja. I'm your host, Rob Kent. As you know, I'm the author of Banneker Bones and the Giant Robot Bees, the first book in the Banneker Bones trilogy. That is available in paperback, audiobook, and the ebook is free. Free to download whenever you're watching or listening to this, wherever fine ebooks are sold. Banneker Bones and the Giant Robot Bees, two 11-year-old boy detectives who fight all kinds of monsters. It's a good time. Enjoy the series. Under the super secret pen name Robert Kent, I've written horror novels for older readers, such as my young adult novel, All Together Now a Zombie Story. It's a companion piece, All Right Now a Short Story, and the 5-volume serial horror novel, The Book of David, which is absolutely nuts. And the nice thing about having written a book about the apocalypse is now that I'm living through an apocalypse, I get to see, how close was I? A little bit off so far. We'll see how it comes out. But if you're curious about that, The Book of David is about an atheist that purchases a haunted house that then begins to give him religious visions involving flying saucers. It is crazy. It is fun. We're going to be talking a lot about mythology tonight, and it's two of my favorite mythologies. American Christianity featuring a white Jesus. I'll spoil it. He's a character in the story. White Jesus with blonde hair, blue eyes, everything you expect from American Christianity mythology. And then American UFO mythology, which I never get tired of. And you better believe we hit all the important points. Is there reference to lizard people? My God, of course. What would even be the point of bringing up UFO mythology without lizard people? So it's fun. If you're curious about that, The Book of David by Robert Kent. The first book, Chapter 1, is available as a paperback, and the audiobook is narrated on this podcast by me. You can listen to that for free, or you can get the ebook for free. That feels like plenty. As always, head to middlegradeninja.com. Check out what's going on with me, what's going on with the show. Read hundreds of interviews with literary agents, authors, editors, folks you'd find interesting. And that's all the announcements we've got time for. My God, Annie Sullivan is back, but I'm not sure why. I feel like we nailed this last time around, didn't we?
We did. It was one and done, but then I wrote more books, and so I was like, I guess I'll come back since we had so much fun last time.
No, I am thrilled that you came back. I'm very excited to talk to you. I know that we're going to top it, although if the esteemed audience wanted, they could go back to episode 40, start at the beginning, because I'm going to do my best to steer us clear of topics we already covered. You're going to hear the world's most amazing masterclass on author publicity and promotion. In fact, I clipped that separate on YouTube, and I link to that when I teach classes. People have additional questions for me about promotions. I've never heard it better than when Annie Sullivan explained it, and we did a deep dive on that. So check out episode 40. Annie, remind esteemed audience who you are.
Yeah, guys, I'm Annie Sullivan. I'm the author of several young adult fantasy books. My first book, A Touch of Gold, came out in 2018. It's about the cursed daughter of King Midas, who faces pirates, betrayers, and thieves on her quest to get her father's gold back when it gets stolen. My next book, Tiger Queen, just came out last year in 2019. It's a retelling of the infamous short story, The Lady or the Tiger, about a warrior princess who fights suitors in an arena to win her right to rule. And then my third book, which is a sequel to my first book, A Touch of Gold, called A Curse of Gold, is coming out September 22nd. And you can pre-order it right now, and you'll follow Princess Cora as she faces off against the trickiest god the world or the underworld has ever known, as she tries to break the curse of the Touch of Gold.
And so, obviously, my most burning question for you is Tiger King. Is that like a curse or a blessing when you're marketing a book titled Tiger Queen?
Well, let me tell you, I've set up some Google alerts for all of my titles. For any of you listeners who aren't familiar with those, you can type in any sort of words that you want Google to find on the internet. And if there's a new article or news story that features those words, it sends you an email being like, hey, those words you thought you wanted to follow are in this article. And every article I get now is Tiger Queen Carol Baskin, Tiger Queen Carol Baskin. And I'm like, no. Like, this is not helpful. And it doesn't help that for my release party for Tiger Queen, I had a giant, like, life-size tiger cake. Like, it was a tiger-shaped cake. It is amazing. You can check it out on my Instagram.
My son ate 3 pieces. It was amazing.
Oh, it's amazing. So good by Classic Cakes, Bakery in Carmel, Indiana. Who? Shout out. And someone saw a picture of that quite recently when actually the bakery was kind of having an anniversary. They posted a picture, or maybe I did, and someone was like, "Is that a young Carol Baskin with a tiger?" And I was like, "Okay, great. Now I'm getting called Carol Baskin." Like, oh man. So it's been a fun ride seeing Tiger Queen. I just want to like start photoshopping him into my like promotional images and be like, "Did you like Tiger King? Then check out Tiger Queen. It's got an even better plot."
You should, and you should dress up like Carol Baskin, and somebody will pick that up and run with it.
I do. I mean, if you know anything about me, I'm a little bit famous for how many costumes I have as well. I have an inflatable like individual riding a tiger costume, so it's like an inflatable. It looks like you're like riding a tiger, and I'm like, man, I should just dress up like Carol Baskin and ride that inflatable tiger and just like hold my book up and see so many marketing ideas that I just don't even have time for sometimes. So maybe while in quarantine, you guys will start following my Instagram and you'll be like, she did it. She dressed up like Carol Baskin. So.
Well, I'm going to say your social media has been inspirational during quarantine. I saw you walking around your neighborhood in a T-Rex costume.
Yes, I have an inflatable T-Rex. I just debuted the inflatable Triceratops, which is like 4 times bigger. It is amazing. Yeah, they've got some really cool ones out there. I've got an inflatable alien one that has not made its debut yet. The only problem, it's getting a little hot here in Indiana, and those costumes, like, you start to roast very quickly. So,
alien like versus Ripley or other kind of alien?
It's actually, I would want to say like, oh, everyone probably saw these ads on Facebook, but I'm realizing they probably didn't because most people probably aren't shopping for lots of inflatable costumes. So they're
everybody else is buying toilet paper and canned foods, and you're trying to find inflatable costumes.
I know. Oh, I saw one the other day. I can't remember what it was, and I was like, oh, I should get it. And then I was like, no, it's a pandemic. I should save my money. And then I was like, oh, man. But no, it's like a big alien is behind you and your head is sticking out of like a small human body that the alien is like carrying. So it looks like it's an alien abduction and the alien is running off with you. And it's fun. I'll try to like post some pictures, guys, and you can just be like, wow, Annie's weird. But that's okay. I've heard that before from my family.
Oh, fantastic. So. When can we expect that to make its official social media debut? Are you counting down to a date?
I don't know. I feel like I should just get it out there then at some point. It's actually, I'll let you in on a secret. I actually bought 3 of them because my grand plan was to have 2 other people at work for our work Halloween party dress up, and then we would all run through and pretend we were being abducted by aliens. Because, it looks way better if there's multiple aliens. So I'll have to do that as like a fan giveaway of like, come be an alien for a day with Annie Sullivan. Like, I'm sure that'll be a big seller.
Your goal is out of this world.
Yes. Actually, I think I did do a piece where there might be one on Instagram in that costume from a while ago. That was like Tiger Queen is out of this world. It was something like that.
If we find it, send it to me. I will replace your author headshot with that picture, and that's what we'll use for the post.
Awesome. Okay, I'm going to find it. I know it's there somewhere, so I'm going to look for it.
It was, we were talking before, but before we started recording, I was listening to our previous episode 40, esteemed audience, available now. It's incredible. Make it a double feature. But during that episode, I thought it was so prescient because you talked at length about how you said an aspiring recluse, and that if you had the opportunity, if you could have food delivery, you'd be happy to go away for at least 6 months at a time, maybe come out to travel. So here we are. It's July 14th, 2020 is when we're recording this. So how's quarantine working out for you?
I'm doing very well, I think, compared to most people. As I was telling you, it's July 14th. I have not been in a single other building besides my parents' house since March 9th. So no stores, no doctor's appointments, nothing. So I always joked growing up with my mom, I was like, I'm going to be a hermit when I grow up. And she was like, no, Annie, you're not. And I was like, just watch me, you know? And she was like, right, whatever. And now I'm like, look at me living my best life. Like, so, I mean, like I get food delivered, anything I need, I just order it offline. Yeah, so I'm making it through, I think, a lot better than most people. Plus, you know, I've got a super active imagination, so that keeps me busy, you know, keeps me writing, keeps me thinking. I'm not really tethered to one place. That probably sounds weird, but like I can go anywhere I want in my mind and just be in that world for a while and think about that. So yeah.
Yeah, it's just you're just kind of following your bliss. I assume you're working from home,
Yes.
part-time, or at least part-time as well then?
Yeah, still working from home full-time. For those of you who are curious, I work at Wiley Publishing. They do the dummies books, so like Computers for Dummies, Raising Dogs for Dummies. I'm on their content marketing team. So all those fun emails you get, they're like, have you used your 20% off coupon? Like, I get to write those.
Really, at the bottom of every email, just to annoy people, that you should put from the author of Tiger Queen. Oh, well,
right?
a little more.
Too bad every email has to go through like 20 different steps, but I should like sneak it in there at the bottom and just be like, what do you mean we can't add that? Like, of course we can.
Would impress customers. I bet you'd sell more of whatever books Wiley's actually trying to move.
Right. I know. I mean, we reach out to a lot of teachers, so I should just start sticking in there and be like, man, you tired of teaching calculus? Why not teach Tiger Queen? I've got teacher's guides available on my website. So.
Well, here's an ethics question that we can cut this out if it's terrible. But you don't ask, you don't get. Is there an ethics breach if you take some of those email addresses that you're sending out for Wiley and you're already sending them stuff about books?
I think
it's probably
it would be
a bad move.
Yeah, they opted into Wiley's email, and they haven't opted into like my personal email, so I think I would probably get in a lot of trouble for that.
That's why I would get fired from Wiley. It's good.
I would love to send them emails, but no, I'd rather keep my job. So.
Well, that's important. And we were talking before about staying in, and I know that I'm frustrated by the number of Americans who are just not reading the news. I was telling you about my son and I finally got sick of quarantine because we've been home. We haven't been interacting with people for 4 months, and we just took a drive just to keep the car running, make sure it's still capable of leaving should the need arise. And we drove around and we drove by our local pool and we saw that there were tons of people in it. We saw that that there were people in line, a long line for a carousel. We saw people just not social distancing. We saw crowded picnic tables. It was a beautiful summer day here in Indiana. And then I came home feeling like the conspiracy theorist. I had to reread some articles about COVID-19. I didn't make that up, right? There is an infectious disease sweeping the country. And I know you're taking this more seriously than most. I'm not going to explain your condition to you. You tell us.
Yes, I know most people are like, Annie, wow, you're an extreme hermit, and I am high risk, and so I think that is a factor. I have asthma. I've had it since I was born, and I was kind of talking with you earlier about this, but asthma is one of the reasons I became a writer, because when I was younger, I had to have breathing machine treatments every couple of hours, and so it was a very loud machine. It still is a loud machine, but it was hard because I couldn't like hear the TV or anything over it because it was so loud. So what my mom would do is she'd read to me, because if she kind of sat behind me and read into my ear, I could hear what she was reading. And so stories were always a way for me to escape as a child. I wasn't that sick kid tethered to a machine. I was Harry Potter under the stairs. I was a hobbit on an adventure. I was a princess. I was, a thief. I was whatever it was. Those stories came alive to me. And I think that's why I love to write fantasy. I love to write about a place where you can escape to, because that's what reading was for me. It was a way to escape this reality that can be very harsh. It is still harsh even to this day. everyone needs to be able to take a step back and find somewhere to escape to, and hopefully come back a little bit stronger, a little bit more ready to face the world and its problems after seeing some of your favorite characters do that. And so that's why I strive to write the stories that I do. And that's why, yeah, I hope everyone does wear masks. So guys, because I won't be around to to write stories if you guys don't, because yeah, I mean, I grew up having an asthma attack probably 1 or 2 times a year, and often end up in the hospital, which I hated. It's probably why I still hate hospitals to this day. Hate needles, all that kind of stuff, because I had to deal with it so often as a kid. And yeah, it was rough at times, you know, even going on family vacations. We would have to stop at like a McDonald's back in the day, back in like the 90s, guys, and use their plugs, because nowhere had plugs back in the day either. So if we were on a road trip, we'd just be like, pop into a McDonald's, be like, I'd have to go behind the counter to the kitchen area and actually like plug my machine in. And do
Somebody might have been using a pay phone. It was a different world.
Right? It was such a different time back then. Now get this, they have like portable nebulizer machines. And I'm like, what? I have one, but it's not as good. So I always end up just like taking my big one with me usually when I go somewhere, because I travel a lot. So I always have like my portable one with me. If I'm like at a book event, it's probably back in my suitcase at the hotel. Like, don't leave home without it.
Just thinking, kudos to your mom for reading into your ear and getting a book because you couldn't watch TV. If she'd been like, here, take this Game Boy or DS, I can't remember what was popular in the early 90s. I'm an old man. I don't remember what came out when. But if she handed you just Mario and said, shut up, kid.
But hey, now I could be like, I could be a computer genius or something, or video game like master instead. But no, it was reading. So
I don't think that's the path that necessarily follows from that. Oh, Mario at a young age, computer genius it is. If only.
Right? If only. Man, I played enough Mario as a kid anyway. You know, between 2 brothers who wanted to play like Super Smash Brothers all the time, which I'll just let you guys in on a secret. My strategy was always to just run away and hide until they both killed each other. And then I automatically came in second at least. That has always been my plan. Like, I was terrible as a kid at fighting in those games. So, I don't know.
I know last time we talked, you enthralled me with your death-defying stunts. You went cage diving with great white sharks. You went to Antarctica. You reached every continent but one. Is that still true?
No, yeah, I've been to every continent. So.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Yeah,
you hit them all now. So like, asthma has not slowed you down. Doesn't seem like.
I know. That's the sad thing is like, I love to travel. I would love to get out there and travel right now, but obviously I'm not going anywhere. But we went on a big trip to India in December. So that was kind of nice that we had just kind of gotten back from that when coronavirus had started. So
slipped under the wire.
Yes. Oh, definitely. I mean, yeah, I can't remember. I think we flew through like Hong Kong and stuff. Like, we were all in the areas that got like pretty heavily hit like a month before the US did. And I'm like, oh man, and we were on a cruise too. So I'm like, oh, if we'd been like 2 or 3 weeks later, like, who knows what would have happened. But, you know, there by the grace of God go I. So.
Wow, that's cutting it close.
Yeah. Now that I look back on it, I'm like, ooh, okay, well, that was interesting, but we made it. We had a wonderful time. It was awesome. So got to see the Taj Mahal.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, super cool, you guys. Pictures do not do it justice. Like, they just don't. Like, I thought it was just like all white, right? Like, it just like looks like it's this all white building. It is not. It has tons of like inlaid marble motifs just running all up and down it of flowers. And I was like, what? Who knew? I'm sure other people knew, but you know, us Americans like
privilege for you, and now you're one of them.
Yes. Oh, yes. Traveling is such a privilege and something I take very seriously and save my money to do, because I'm like, as an author, I love to see new places. You know, see how people interact with each other. Just to even see new people and be like, what does their face look like? What does their nose look like? You know, anything like that I can beg, borrow, or steal and put in my book, you know?
So how are you substituting that now? With just like YouTube videos and virtual visits?
Does crying count? No, I was telling you, I set up this like awful inflatable pool for my nieces and nephews in my backyard, and it's like 12 foot around and only like 2 feet high, and plus it like slants, so it's not even straight, but whatever. And that is my beach vacation, is this awful 12-foot pool that, you know, can't even stand up straight, but it's fine. It works. I just pretend. I pretend I'm floating at the beach.
Hey, that's gonna have to do it this year, unfortunately. We're
Right?
doing trampoline vacations here at Casa de Kent. We've got a sprinkler that we put under the trampoline. That was a tip from Claire Source, I believe, on a previous episode. So well appreciated. Get a sprinkler under a trampoline. That's the greatest time ever when you're 6.
Right. Oh, see, my dad, the attorney, we were not allowed to have a trampoline growing up, so I always wanted one so badly. I guess
just because he'd seen
so many like injuries and things, and lawsuits over it. Like, if you have a friend come over and that friend gets injured, then we can be sued. Like, you know, we always had to think about things in terms of, can we be sued for doing this? And if the answer was yes, then we're not going to do it. So
that's probably a good policy.
Right. I mean, it's good, but at the time I was like, it's a trampoline, it's gonna be fine. Like, I also
there's a safety net on ours, and nobody can come over now, so
there you go. I mean, it didn't stop me from doing gymnastics on a trampoline, but I actually almost kind of like broke my neck doing that, so it's fine.
You could have sued somebody. That would have been
right. I know.
You could have got set for life.
Oh yes. If only, you know. No, I'm much happier how I am, and I appreciate the use of all my limbs. I'm very grateful that I can move them.
Well, at some point I'm going to ask you about doing in-person promotion versus now promoting during quarantine, but that'll be the tease. We won't cover social media again because, by God, we just nailed that in episode 40. Track that down, esteemed audience. But for right now, I'll tease that. Probably the best place to get going is tell us about the series, Curse of Gold, out September 22nd, available for pre-order now. And the first book, Touch of Gold, which I've just enjoyed and highly recommend. It's perfect when there's a series, because I can read the first book, and I know I'm not going to spoil the second book, because I'm not far enough along to give anything away yet.
Yes. No, this is a series that kind of was born out of a couple different inspirations. One of them was the movie Pirates of the Caribbean. Always loved that, you know, growing up. And it got me thinking about cursed gold and how they had to track down every single piece. And I was like, man, what if you didn't have to track it down? What if you could like absorb it or transfer it or do something in a different way? And that got me thinking about King Midas. And so then I really wanted to talk about his daughter, because in the original myth, she's just a means to an end. She's a forgotten character who exists only so that we realize that, oh man, King Midas was really stupid for asking for the power to turn things to gold, because he turned his daughter to gold. So, you know,
your daughter's dead.
right. Like, look what you did. So I was like, man, if she was able to return to life, like, what kind of life would that be? What side effects would she have? Are they magical side effects? Are they mental side effects? Physical side effects? Like, what would happen in that story? And so I really wanted to take a look at that. And so it just kind of evolved from there, but it also involves Greek mythology. You know, it's got sirens, it's got Greek gods, and the second book even has way more Greek mythology than the first one. So I'm super excited. I love to take Greek mythology, like what you know or what you think you know, and just presenting it with a little bit of a twist, you know? So like, oh, I thought I knew about that, but let me just like a different origin story or something to make it new and exciting for readers.
Can you give us a little tease about what myths you might be borrowing from, or is that a spoiler?
I'll give you one. Okay. So probably my favorite one is coming up in A Curse of Gold. There's two. There's a god that makes an appearance in that book that love it. Love that one. And then Medusa's not there, but some Gorgons might show up. And you might just find out what happens if someone who can turn things instantly to gold when they touch it comes up with someone who, when they stare at you, turns you instantly to stone. So finally solved that
That's
riddle.
That's the perfect matchup.
Of what happens when those two meet up. So be on the lookout for that. Be on the lookout for more tricky gods and a lot more curses than you might think. I'll leave it there. But some fun things are coming.
Probably, if I had to guess, I'd imagine maybe a little bit of romance. We'll see.
I mean, maybe. I mean, what's the story without romance, right? So, high seas adventure. Yeah, lots of good stuff in that one. I'm super excited about it. I think fans will really like it, or I hope they will at least.
And then this is you. I mean, you must love to do retellings. Of course, we talked previously. Tiger Queen is a sort of retelling, reimagining of the Lady of the Tiger. And what is it about retellings that excites you, that gets you interested?
I mean, I think these are the stories that I grew up with. And so I love them at such a deep level. Again, they're so personal to me. They're something that, got me through childhood. I still dream that I'm like going to be a Disney princess one day, even though like I don't go out in nature much, obviously, because I'm a hermit. So I can't have like a flock of like helpful pigeons or something.
Has had a hermit princess? Yeah, flock of pigeons. That was gargoyles. Was for Quasimodo, not a princess, but a start.
Okay, I just got compared to Quasimodo, you guys.
No, just the hermit part. Just the hermit. We started with Carol Baskin. We moved to Quasimodo. I usually don't compliment the guest appearances, but now I feel obligated. Annie Sullivan, you are a very attractive Hoosier. We think you look like that of those folks.
Don't worry, I've got a good sense of humor. Don't worry, I can handle being Quasimodo. It's fine. Wait, now
just
I don't
in the
know
hermit state.
It's okay. I actually am much more like Quasimodo than I realized. Now that I think about it, I'm like, oh man, yeah. I just want like a couple like cool friends to hang out with me in my like isolated tower where COVID-19 can't come in. Like, let's do that. But yeah, so I love retellings. I'm one of 4 kids, so like I love thinking about like forgotten characters because spoiler alert, I've always felt like a forgotten middle child. But since there are 4 of us, I have to like share being a middle child, so I get even less attention than like a normal middle child. Yeah, I know. Welcome to my life.
You don't even get your own angst. You have to share that with someone.
Right. My mom's out there playing like a tiny violin, like no one cares. You were very loved, and I was very loved. My parents loved me very much. But I've always like felt drawn to these characters who are kind of like forgotten. They're just like plopped into a story, and like you never hear about them. So I love to just see where their stories go. And as an author and as a writer, one of your most powerful questions is what if? What if this happened? What if I told the story from King Midas's daughter's point of view? What if Cinderella never made it to the ball? What if this or that happened instead? Like, you can take that question and just turn it into an entire story idea. And so that's what I love. I am working on something new. I won't make any promises, and I'm not going to go into it, but it is not a retelling. It's just completely new YA fantasy. So I can do both, but retellings just have a special place in my heart because they also allow me to kind of create stories for today's modern readers. We take fairy tales where maybe there's a princess like Aurora in the original Disney movie gets like 18 lines total. Really? And I want to say, yeah, you can Google it. I think she gets 18 lines in the entire, hour and a half, hour 45 minutes, however long this movie, right? I want to give modern day readers role models that they can look up to and be like, man, look at that princess. And that's kind of the interesting thing I'll say too is, in Tiger Queen, Princess Kateri is very much like, she is a warrior princess. She will beat you down. She was practically born with a sword in her hand, right? Whereas Princess Cora in A Touch of Gold is much softer. She kind of has to find her inner strength. And so I want to kind of say like, hey, you don't have to have a sword in your hand to be a strong female character. You can be smart, you can be witty, you can be funny, you can, do all these different things and still be a strong female character. And so it's kind of taking these original myths, just kind of turning them on their head a little bit and saying, like, instead of, hey, Little Red Riding Hood, make sure you stay on the path and you have to be careful. It's saying, hey, Little Red Riding Hood, here's a sword. Go out there and walk down that path and kill the wolf if he comes along, because you are capable and you can do it. And so that's kind of what I want to do, is reintroduce these stories with just a new little twist of saying, like, yeah, kind of like girl power. You got this.
Well, get in a high stakes fight with the wolf, but if you kill the wolf, you could badly wound it. But maybe it's the wolf's son that comes back and out of revenge eats grandma. That could be the twist.
Right, yes. Oh, I've tried to write like 6 different Red Riding Hood retellings, and I get like a couple chapters in, and I'm like, nah, that didn't quite work. That's not the right world. That's not the right character. Maybe someday, but
I feel like that one, more so than other myths, has been retold. I don't know why, because I wouldn't put it up there as like the absolute best ones, because I don't think Little Red Riding Hood has that much cleverness. Oh, your teeth are so large, Grandma. That's the cleverness. Okay, she can properly identify a wolf. Oh, well.
She's really good at stating the obvious. Okay.
Grandma, I noticed you're in a bed. That's a place where folks sleep. Well spotted, Red. Glad to keep you around. You know what? I take it back. This story needs your retelling. You need to give Little Red Riding Hood something more to her character.
Right. She needs a little bit more agency. She needs something going on there. She needs some help.
Also, the wolf should be a robot, and that's it. I'll leave the rest in your hands. always glad to be of use. So when you're doing one of these retellings, what do you want to do? How do you stay true to the original myth while still telling your story? How do you determine what it's okay to change? Is it cool to make the wolf a robot? Is that going too far?
That is not going too far at all. I think you always want to do something that goes almost a little too far, right? Because you want it to be different enough from that first myth. Like, you want the bones to be there per se, but you want something new, right? There's no reason for someone to read your retelling if it's a blow by blow of the original story, right? And I mean, there are different ways you can kind of do it and mess with things. Like, you can put it in different setting. You can put it in a different, time period. You can make it a contemporary story. You can put it in outer space. You can make it from the point of view of the villain and make the villain the hero, or just tell it from the villain's point of view, or different things like that, that really kind of add that new flair to it. For like A Touch of Gold, I did tell it from King Midas's daughter. Like, she never gets a story, right? It's always King Midas wanted the touch and Dionysus gave it to him, or someone else gave it to him, or whatever, like, different story you read. And so it really is about making sure there's enough of the original in there that you kind of pay homage to it a little bit, but you're not writing it word for word, because that's never going to be exciting for your readers.
Is there, and you convinced me, by the way, that being turned into gold would absolutely be terrible. I love the PTSD and the horror that Cora experiences, recurring imagining of having her heart turned to gold and stopping. I was, oh my God, that does sound awful. I will not sign up for that. But without spoiling, I don't think, because it's pretty early on in the series, we learn that, of course, shortly thereafter, the king gets word that, hey, if you wash everything that you touch to turn into gold, dummy, this one chance you get a do-over, and everything will come back and not be gold, including your daughter. And of course, old Midas screws that up too. But I'll leave that to the reader. Was that from anything, or is that purely Annie Sullivan original to keep the story going?
That is a combo, actually. So water is kind of very important often, and has been described as something that is too pure to kind of be like touched by magic, right? So I think in some versions of the myth, I want to say he does survive on water, because it was like the only thing he could get down. So like that was something that I wanted to really incorporate, and I did incorporate Dionysus, who is the one in most of the original myth who gives him the touch, or I call it the touch, to turn things to gold. But most of that, the rest of it, yeah, like throwing it in the river, that was just me being like, all right, well, let's take that water element and kind of up it and say, like, if water's, was pure enough not to turn to gold, then that means you could wash it in the river as long as the god made it like a special, special time. So yeah, it was kind of like a mixture there of like what I did versus what was in the myth. And in the original myth, I don't ever think he actually turns his daughter back. So it was just kind of.
Yeah, I thought she was kind of screwed forever.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for teaching your father a valuable lesson. That was your life.
Right, exactly. So I just wanted to give her a new life. I was like, you deserve a story and a life. So here you go.
Yeah, but old Greek myths, they're like that. Kids are always dying to prove a point or getting baked in pies. Times.
I mean, Zeus had enough kids. There were people everywhere. So.
Well, once you get past a couple of hundred kids, what's 2 in a pie? It's fine.
Right? Oh dear. And now we turn to cannibalism.
It was just a matter of time. No, I'm glad to talk about some of these things. I took this couple of long classes on Greek mythology, and up till now, the only thing they've been useful for is when I play Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I could turn to my life and say, "Oh, I know more details about this character." Hasn't come in handy for much else other than the glory of knowledge.
But yeah, I think the cool thing is you have to know the rules before you can break the rules, right? So I kind of hinted very strongly that there might be some gorgons, right, in A Curse of Gold. And so I had to know, how are gorgons created originally? How many are there? All these kind of things. Then I was like, okay, now that I know all of that, how can I play with that? How can I create more? That kind of stuff, it's just like looking at what's there. And there's another creature, well, there are a couple creatures that show up, but there's another one that shows up related to the gorgons that I'm not going to give away. And so, yeah, I think it's just really important to see, like, I did a lot of the research into how that other creature was also created, and how you would get
Spoiler,
more.
it's a robot wolf.
What? How did you know?
It's all up here.
Yeah,
I thought you the other day, because there was this is coming up apropos of nothing, but Amazon was showing Sharktopus versus Whalewolf. I thought, oh my God, I didn't know this was a thing, so I had to watch it immediately. I'm sure Annie Sullivan's seen this 5 times, but just in case she hasn't, I need to let her know this movie exists in the world.
I mean, okay, wait, I've seen Sharktopus, and I think there are like a couple Sharktopus movies, but this is Sharktopus versus, did you say whale or werewolf?
Whalewolf, part werewolf, part whale. All problems for Sharktopus. Don't worry about that.
Although I still think my favorite is the 6-headed shark. Okay, have you seen that one?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
This shark, you guys, esteemed listeners, if you have not seen this excellent shark movie, it's a shark with 6 heads, and it's so smart. It uses 2 of the heads or 4 of the heads, I can't remember, to walk on land. So the heads function as legs, and I know you can't see my video right now, but I'm doing a really good rendition of it with my fingers. Look it up, guys. 6-headed shark. It is phenomenal.
No, we will put that imitation on YouTube far and wide for all to see. That must be shared with the world.
That's gonna be great. They'll be like, what is Annie Sullivan doing? I'm like, guys, I was a 6-headed shark, okay?
As soon as that costume comes out, inflatable 6-headed shark costume, it's on its way to your house. There's no budgeting around that. You gotta have it.
I have a hammerhead shark costume, and I actually have a group of friends. I actually call them my Shark Week friends because we meet up for Shark Week, and we can't this year, so I'm so sad. But when they came last year, I greeted them at the door in my shark costume, and we had shark-shaped cookies. I got those wine glasses that have sharks inside, so if you put like red wine or fruit punch, for those of us who don't drink, inside, it looks like the shark fin is swimming in blood. Super cool, guys. Like, I go all out for Shark Week, okay? August 9th this year. August 9th, guys. Be ready, because you know I will be.
When all this quarantine is behind us, I will have to find a way to get myself invited to your Shark Week party. That sounds excellent.
You should. It's a very sought after invitation, okay?
Well, before I derailed us with talk of werewolves, um, we were talking about Greek mythology, and I'm curious, when you're borrowing these elements that that are accessible, that anybody that's played Assassin's Creed or Odyssey will be familiar with. What how are you doing the research for them, and how much do you say? It's another version of the same question I asked you before, but how true do you feel you have to be to the original myths of those characters, especially if they're not the main focus of your story?
I'll just say I like to play with them. Like, I mean, if you think of Percy Jackson, like, Rick Riordan does a lot with different Greek mythology characters in a more modernized setting, right? And I really loved what he did. And so I kind of like sometimes will take cues from him and be like, okay, well, he did this, so I can totally do this. And honestly, it's about having fun with it, but still presenting it in a way that is, respectful of the original mythology, but provides you something new. So I'll just give you a little spoiler alert, because I've already talked about this. And this is one of the things I had the most fun with, again, was the Gorgons. And so how I said we created Gorgons. And so in the original myth, I think it was just like the gods who created them. Like they turned Medusa into a Gorgon. There are 3 Gorgons originally. But in my version, anytime a Gorgon is killed, so like when Medusa got beheaded and her head was thrown into the ocean, she's got all these snakes in her head. So in my version of the mythology, the way a Gorgon reproduces is as soon as the head is cut off, the snakes can go free, and each of those snakes grows into a new Gorgon.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, so like that, I was like, there you go, right? Just like that. And so anytime, this is going to come important for my characters, anytime you cut off a head, you're just going to start creating more Gorgons, because the snakes are going to escape everywhere.
It's like chucking a gremlin into the sea.
Yes. Yep.
Although I don't know how many snakes can Medusa fit on her head. Is there a specific number?
There is not. I should look into that. I should be like, there are 73 snakes on a female Gorgon, and a male Gorgon's got like, I don't know. No, that just sounds too complicated. Like, they're just Gorgons. They don't have like a gender of any kind. They're just Gorgons, run of the mill Gorgons, that you would find.
Somewhere, someplace is an angry Greek mythology professor, arms crossed right now, listening to us. I know the number of snakes.
I know. They're gonna be like, according to the ancient carvings in Athens and wherever, and I'll be like, yeah, sorry, I didn't look at that. So
what I learned as an English major is that English professors and real true lovers of literature are just comic book nerds at that next level. You feel about Prufrock the way people feel about Spider-Man. It's fine, but just acknowledge that's what we're doing here.
Right. Oh, and trust me, anytime you try to like play with Greek mythology or anything like that, someone somewhere knows more than you, and they will let you know when you're wrong. So
how do you avoid that? What kind of research are you doing to make sure that even if you're playing with it and changing, if somebody does come up to you at a book signing and say, Annie Sullivan, why did you ruin my life when you changed this particular bit of character?
Like, there were only 3 Gorgons. How did you create more? And I'll be like, well, as you can see, it's a fantasy story. And that's kind of what I just leave with. I'm like, you know what? It's a fantasy story. I say it's Greek inspired, right? It's not an original Greek myth. It's not, sticking right to any of those stories. And it's honestly like the King Midas myth, even though it does involve like Dionysus, it doesn't truly involve the other gods in a lot of ways that they're involved in a lot of the other stories. So it almost feels a little bit removed itself to begin with. So, and actually one of the things that I talked with my editor about early on in the process is, do we take out the Greek mythology aspect altogether? And I was like, And I was actually against that, because I said, you know what? I already knew for the sequel that certain things were going to be important. And so that was kind of my reasoning, my rationale of keeping it. Plus, it does a lot of work on your reader's end that you as the author then don't have to do. Like, I don't want to create a new sea god and name him like, not Poseidon, but like, Paul, the sea god Paul, and then I have to explain to you who the sea god Paul is and his powers and all this stuff. Whereas if I just say, hey, Poseidon's here, you know right away who that is, right? If Zeus shows up, you're like, oh, sweet, Zeus is here. Not like random thunder god has shown up today, you know? So that for me was
Although now
important.
I'm kind of in love with the idea of a seagull named Sea Paul. I like it. I think it's sorry. Not to derail you.
we can add that into our story with Robotic Wolf. We got this.
We have a whole novel, well, a series, I think, by the time we're done here. So when did you know that there was going to be a sequel? Did you always have one in the back of your mind as you were working on Touch of Gold? Was it after the fact?
No, so I'm a pantster when I write. That means I fly by the seat of my pants. I don't plot my books. So I literally got to the end of the book. I wrote the last scene and I was like, huh, okay, this actually needs a sequel. So that was when I knew. Now I try to plan a little bit better. I at least try to know going in that, like, this will have a sequel, this will not have a sequel. So like Tiger Queen, standalone. It's actually way easier to just write standalones. I know everyone loves series, but I kind of like one and done a lot. It just I like to enter a world, give you a story, and then pull back. I mean, I have some ideas for some other series, but it's all about finding the time. So
Gotcha. So you had the idea, possibility, but then after the book came out and everyone said, "My God, this is the book we've all been waiting for," and the world stopped and everyone was reading. You remember, esteemed audience, you were there. So that happened, and then it's, "Oh my God, we have to get a sequel right away." Or at what point do you go from there could be a sequel to I'm definitely writing the sequel?
I had kind of a different timeline than most authors had. So I actually had Tiger Queen already written by that point, because they tell you, I don't know why I know why they tell you this, but they always say, like, if you sell your first book in a series, don't write the second one until the first one sells, because you go through so many edits and things that it almost makes the second one, like, almost not even worth having written, if that makes sense. And so, like, it's a lot of wasted time. So they tell you not to write the second one until the first one sells. Well, in the meantime, I had written Tiger Queen, right? And so Tiger Queen was, like, ready to go. And they're like, do we wait, like, 8 months and let Annie write this next book and get that edited and everything? Or do we just get Tiger Queen out now? So we got Tiger Queen out. And then that gave me time to write the sequel. So actually what they did is, so I had a 1-book deal for A Touch of Gold. And then they did a 2-book deal for Tiger Queen and A Curse of Gold. So that was kind of like lumped together. It's like, hey, we want both. And I was like, sweet, awesome.
Oh, worked out nicely. Okay, so then you've got a book to promote and time to write the sequel.
Yes, and while I will say A Curse of Gold does tie up Princess Cora's story, there are some loose ends, I will say.
I would think, if nothing else, spin-off novels could be an offering.
I love spin-off novels. I think those are fun. Like, I mean, because this, especially as you will see in A Curse of Gold, this becomes a very rich world with a lot of new characters, a lot of kind of new insights in how this world works and the people in it, and the variety of people in it. So I think that opens a lot of doors as well that I would love to explore, even if it's just in like a little mini story or like a little giveaway incentive or something like that.
So how do you keep track of your world from one novel to the sequel, especially since you had another one in between? And I'm assuming that there were at least some revisions going on with Touch of Gold from your original story to the final version that was even more superior. But I know, me personally, I get a couple of different versions going in my head, and I got to remember which one our esteemed audience actually got. I have to keep all those details straight.
Sometimes it can be hard, and like I never reread my books, but when I was working on the sequel, I would go back and spot check a few things just to make sure they're wearing the same color of this or the same thing as that, or they wear this the same way, or the hair is, mentioned as the same color, all those kind of things. Those were the only things I would go back and spot check in the novel. But I keep a lot of it up here. Like I told you, this is why I'm fine being a hermit, because like I got like 40 different worlds stored in here at any given time in my mind, for those of you who can't see where I'm pointing. And so, yeah, I keep a lot of it all up here. This is a very busy place to be in my mind. I'm not good at writing things down.
Fair enough.
I know. See, and it's so funny. I went on tour with Lauren Mancy, who wrote The Memory Thief, and she is a complete plotter to like a T. Like she has like color-coded Post-it notes of what happens in her novel, and I'm sitting here like the kids are like, okay, so she has Post-it notes and outlines everything. They're like Miss Sullivan, because they all call me Miss Sullivan, and like Miss Sullivan, how do you write a novel? And all the little kids ask me, and I'm like, I just write it, and like whatever comes to me, I just write. And they're like, okay. I'm like, yeah.
Does that make your revision process take longer, or are you pretty good about revising as you go?
I pretty much revise as I go. Like I can't move forward in my novel unless what comes before it is like perfect. Meaning that like I won't leave characters unnamed. I won't, like if I realize something in chapter 6 that affects what happens in chapter 4, like I realize, oh, the character is actually this way instead of like this, I will just go back and start again and write to that point, and then I might get to like chapter 8 and realize in chapter 8 that something someone says is like, oh, that's a really cool thing. I need to foreshadow that earlier, put that in earlier, and then I'll go back to chapter 4 and then I'll write it again and reread through it all the way to chapter 8 to make sure that that little thread is now perfectly woven through and not just like plunked in there. Like I write a very clean first draft. Like my first draft is pretty much like almost ready to go to my agent. I usually have like my sister and one beta reader read it first.
Sounds efficient.
That is a good word for me. I strive to be efficient on all fronts. And so like I like to tell people my writing style is like Happy Gilmore, you know, the Adam Sandler movie. He's the golfer.
Of course.
And he hates putting, but he's really good at hitting the ball really, really far the first time. That's me. I'm really good at hitting the ball really, really far and getting really close to a hole-in-one. But then when I have to putt, I hate it. So going back to the Lauren Mancy example, because we shared the same editor, Lauren Mancy and I, and she would get her edit letters and cry tears of joy because she's like, I get to revise. It's my favorite part. And I'd be over here being like, I get my edit letters and I just cry. And they're not tears of joy, guys. So that just shows you I hate the putting, the like, let's tap it in there, let's make it a little better. And I'm like, no, I'm just like hole in one and done. We're good. I mean, obviously,
perfect. I'm not doing it.
right. I'm like, it's good enough, and they're like, no, it's not. And I'm like, all right, fine. I definitely do revise, guys, and I highly recommend listening to your editor. But I don't know. That's just how I write. I can't like, if you made me like color code my novel, I don't even know what I would do. I would just give up. I'd be like, that just sounds horrible. Like,
I don't want to be a writer anymore.
I know. I'm like sitting here thinking about it. I'm like, there's just like no joy in that. See, I think I was discussing this with someone the other day, and if I plot my novel ahead of time, it's no fun for me because I know what happens. But if I write it as I go along, then it's just as fun for me as it is for the reader. And if I'm having fun, you're having fun, right? And if it's new to me, it's like, oh, that's cool. I didn't see that coming because I didn't know it was coming. Like, so.
Fair enough.
So yeah, that's how I roll, guys. Take it or leave it. May not work for everybody, but it works for me.
Should we name check your editor, since she's done such hard work in making sure that the books are from close to perfect hole-in-one to all the way perfect hole-in-one?
I've had a few over the years, but the most recent one was Hannah Van Hells. I can't even say her last name right. And Jackie Alberta, she helped a lot too at Blank, so definitely thankful for them. And for my agent, Krista Heschke at McIntosh and Otis. She's always a good champion of mine and who reads things. And my sister, who finds all my stupid mistakes.
Well, one of those names that the esteemed audience needs to worry about is Miss Heschke, who was a previous guest on the show. Go find that episode. Yeah. It's incredible.
Yes, I love her. So check her out if you're querying. Definitely, like, you can drop my name, be like, oh, I heard Annie Sullivan on Middle Grade Ninja, and she said you were a great agent. Think about that.
Yeah, Yeah, say Andy Sullivan said this, and then I heard your interview, and basically what I'm getting at is middle grade ninja is amazing. Anyway, here's my pitch. That's how you
I
should
mean,
start all
I
quiz.
always look forward to coming on here because I know we're gonna have fun.
Well, I saw you said something that I wanted to ask you about. You said this, I think, I don't know if it was Twitter or Facebook, one of the two. I'm actually on a forced social media diet right now. So I went back on and risked getting re-addicted just to prepare for this interview. I've taken Facebook and Twitter completely off my phone, and I have dedicated times during the day where I open them up. Otherwise, I'm closing them. I'm done. I don't need to wake up every morning and read the anxiety of the whole world, and that's how I start my day. It's terrible. But I went into that awful world to stalk you a little bit and see what you've been up to. So they have interesting things to ask you about. And I saw that you are on chapter, or you were, as of this post, you're on chapter 7 of a new project. And you said, I have this thing where if I can get past chapter 8, I can usually finish writing the story because it means I've got enough of the world built and it's functioning as it should. How does that work?
Yes. I mean, you pretty much said that's how it works for me. So when I'm writing, again, because I'm a pantser, so I don't plot this out. I don't know the rules of the world or anything. I don't even know my characters until they appear on the page and start talking to each other. And that's how I discover who they are. And so the beginning definitely takes me a lot longer to write because I'm learning the world, I'm learning the characters, the rules, how these people interact, how they feel, what their motivation is, and who's standing in their way of that motivation. And so if I can get to chapter 8, I can usually go all the way. I've had a lot of stories that I've abandoned at chapter 3, 4, 5, 6. But if I can get to that chapter 8, it usually means that enough of that world is working together. Because again, like I said, I go back and reread to get to like forward. It means that like everything is still working. Whereas if I get there and I'm just like, this is not working, I usually don't know how to fix it. And it's at a point where something is just irrevocably wrong. It could be the character is not right, setting, the world, something is not right, and I can't fix it. Which sounds like terrible. You should be able to fix it, but sometimes it's just something is wrong. And sometimes I might go back to those stories and rework them and save them in a way. But yeah, if I can get to chapter 8, it's like, okay, we've got a pretty solid world. We've spent 20,000 words, 1/4 of the book. Because that's where I am right now. I'm at 20,000, 21,000 something words, and I'm on chapter 7. Still on chapter 7, guys. It's fine. Gonna get to chapter 8. Gonna get there. But yeah, if I can get to that, then it's like, okay, we've got a solid world. We've got solid characters that we've met. And if we haven't found our motivation and our villain and everything by this point, then we're not going to find them. So all that to say, for me, chapter 8 is a very important turning point. It's a self-imposed turning point, but it's kind of a mental thing as well. It's like, okay, like, look, I already got to chapter 8, like, it's fine. So.
Is there something of if I were to stop now, I'd be throwing away a full 8 chapters and 20,000 words. That's way too much time to be sunk.
I've definitely done that. I've done a few where it's like I got to like chapter 6, chapter 7. I've done a few where I got to chapter 7, started all over, wrote it again, got to like chapter 7, wasn't right, started all over again, and rewrote it. And I did actually finish that book eventually, but it needs some revisions, which, again, not my strong suit. So this shiny new project was like, write me, because this other one was like, revise me. And I was like, I'm going to go over here and write this one. So, yeah, that one's going to sit for a little while. My agent's probably like, what happened to that one? I'm like, what? Which one? I can't hear you. There's a bad connection somewhere. So, sorry, hope she's not listening.
Well, speaking of revisions and starting over, is there anything in either or any of your books, but specifically within Touch of Gold or Curse of Gold, that ended up on the editing room floor, didn't make it in, that you had wished to put in there?
Yes. There was a magical balcony in A Touch of Gold where the king would, it was rumored that this balcony, if you said a lie while you were on it, it would crumble under your feet and reveal that you lied, right? And pretty much plummet you to your death. So it's a pretty strong motivation not to lie. And it was the balcony from which the kings and queens would give speeches to the populace, to the people. So it was a pretty important balcony, and I really loved that, and it played a really crucial role in the ending originally, and it had bearings on the sequel as well, but my editor thought it didn't fit the magic of the world particularly well, so we cut that out for that reason. So that was a little sad. I've always loved that balcony and that idea. Maybe it'll come back in a different way in a different book someday.
Man, that would have made the book so much better. Filled with
It's such a small
I didn't miss it until you told me about it.
But I loved it. I was like, man. And again, like I said, we almost took out all of the Greek mythology, but I fought for that one and kept that in. There were a couple like characters I took out here and there, stuff like that. I added in a character. That's actually a surprise. Spoiler alert for A Touch of Gold, guys. I added in a character just to kill them off. And there's one character that dies that's fairly important, and my thought of it. So in A Curse of Gold, so when you see who dies, you'll be like, what, you just added them in to kill them off? That's really cool. It was really cool. But my agent said there wasn't enough at stake and someone needed to die, and I couldn't bear any of my favorite characters, so I just created a new one.
That's a lot of work. So I thought they were in there from the start, and you went back and added them every little bit just to have. It's fantastic.
Yep. And those of you who know who it is.
That's a huge amount of work.
But it didn't seem like work, did it? Because you couldn't tell.
That's true. No, if you hadn't told me that you did it, I had no idea. But that's the magic of writing. I get the one read through, and I get to experience it. Oh, that looked like it must have been effortless. She must have sat down in an afternoon and heard divine voice speaking to her and just wrote down everything it said, and here it is. It came to me fresh.
Yep. See, all that magic, all that writing magic in these fingers is mine.
Talk a little bit about world building. You mentioned the balcony couldn't stay because the magic wasn't consistent with the rules. So how? And this is something that I'll be talking with Marcy Kate Connolly about it as well, because I know she leads a whole workshop on the subject. So I'm talking to her this week, is why I'm bringing her up. It's going to be a week of learning about magic world building for Rob and for you as well, esteemed audience. We'll all have a good time. It's magic. It's all bullcrap. If you can have a sharktopus, you can have a whalewolf. I don't understand. Why? How do you go through and make sure that your magic is consistent? How do you decide what magic is allowed and what won't work?
Yeah, so actually, that's one of the hardest things that I do when I start writing a book. First of all, is there magic or not magic? And if there is magic, it has to be like perfect in your novel, because if your reader can come into your book and spot one thing that's wrong with your magical system, the entire book is flawed, right? It's ruined for that person because they're like, what? Why didn't they just do that? So like, for example, if you have a character who has powers since birth, and that's like, what they're used to using as their weapon, and you need to get them from point A to point B, and someone's chasing them, and you need someone to chase them, but they don't use their power to just like stop that person, like that's a flaw, right? Because that is so inherent to them as a person. Like that's the first thing they're going to do. They're not going to like throw barrels behind them to make the person trip. Like they're going to use that power. So like you have to be so particular about when they use their power, how they use it. But like you said, you have to have an entire believable system, because even though, yes, it is fantasy, it's all made up, it still has to make sense. It can't just be like, one day someone was born with magic and no one else had ever heard of it in this entire kingdom. Like that just seems really weird, right? So you have to figure out like who has magic. So like in A Touch of Gold, the gods basically have magic, right? They have this power to do whatever they want, and they can bestow things on you or take things away or turn you into a satyr or a grape or whatever they want to do. And so you've got to figure out who has power, where does that power originate from? Like, do wizards have power? How do they wield that power? Do they have to have a staff? Do they have to say spells? Can they mouth the spell? Can they whisper the spell? Can they sing it? Does it have a different effect if they do it different ways? All these things, like you said, it can be an entire course on how to incorporate magic into your story in a consistent, believable way. And it is one of the, in my personal opinion, it's one of the hardest things to write about because you have to get it perfect. Like you cannot have holes in your magical system on any part of it. If any part of it fails, the entire thing fails, basically. But
I know you're not writing down a plot. Refuse to do it. But do you at least write down your magical rules or some kind of guide to keep that consistent?
No, it's all up here. Pretty much
And
everything.
if I check your hard drive, I got to find something other than multiple manuscript drafts. There has to be some file or something. No research notes, nothing.
Nope. I will
crazy.
occasionally make, like, when I'm like mostly through a story, I will sometimes go through and like just make little plot points. I'm like, okay, here's where we've been. Like if I'm stuck, I'll be like, what comes next? So I have some of those notes, but it's not like research. I don't write down anything like that. No. It's all in the story. It's there. Like if you need it, it's there.
No, I feel like Salieri learning that Amadeus Mozart doesn't make multiple notes on. He just writes one note down like he's taking dictation. I already felt a little bit inadequate because I love Tiger Queen. I love Touch of Gold. I know that you're an excellent storyteller, but now it's even worse. You don't need notes.
I know.
I've got to get your brain. It's a supercomputer producing stories.
Yeah, and this is why I need my sister though, because like, on page 1 they got blue eyes, but then by page 46, oh, look at his green eyes, and I'm like, well, yeah, I didn't write it down. I don't remember what color eyes he has. So like that's when my sister comes in extra helpful, because I'm like, yeah. Actually, right before this call, I had a few minutes and I was like, I was trying to actually make some like notes because I have like a big cast of characters in this thing I'm working on. And I got to the point where they're about to be introduced and I was like, man, I don't know anything about them. So now I'm like, what if I just like give them names? Will that help? So I'm trying to just like write down names and maybe like hair colors or something. So I like know who these people are, but that just seems like a lot of work. So I didn't get very far.
Oh, this is fascinating.
So fun being a writer, guys. Honestly, no, I can't like. If I wrote things down, I would just lose them. Like I'm a very tidy person though, so like I would just put them in a drawer and then I would never find them again. So gotta keep it all up here. I will say this. I have a story idea document on my phone. So when I do come up with story ideas that I'm not like writing actively, I will put them in my phone, and that's like 40 pages single space right now if you like printed it out.
And do you go back through it often enough to find things that you then can write about?
No. That's the worst part. Is like I have a bunch of amazing ideas in there, and I just never go back to it. And unless I'm putting a new idea, and then I'll like scroll back and be like, "Oh, that's a cool idea." Oh well, I'm back to this thing. Like, so yeah. So I can never lose I do email it to myself. Like anytime before I go on a big trip, it gets emailed to myself just so I have it just in case I lose my phone or something. But I've never lost my phone ever, so.
I'm assuming you're backing up all manuscripts, all drafts, everything that's eventually going to go in the Annie Sullivan library is being backed up in a cloud or someplace.
I'm not good with the cloud. I actually was having issues on my work laptop today, and they might have to send me a new one. And the guy was like, well, you've backed up everything to OneDrive, what, right? And I was like, I've never actually opened it on my computer, sir. Like, anything that's important enough, I email it to myself. So every couple of, it used to be, I would email it to myself every single night. But now I've gotten lazy and I'll just do it every like once in a while. I'll email it to myself just so I have it multiple places. Because I don't want to be that writer who goes back into her burning house for her computer. Don't want to do that. But I also like, I get oddly like paranoid about losing my computer when I'm working on something that I really, really love. So it stays with me a lot of the time. And again, I'm not going many places, so it's like, yeah, they'll just come to my parents' house with me and hang out there, you know, like, which is fine because I've been helping out with them too, helping them order a bunch of stuff so that they don't have to leave their house. So it works great. I'm like, I'll just bring my computer, and that way it's here. Because yeah, we went through a string of breakeries, like break-ins, like maybe a year ago. That was pretty scary in our neighborhoods. Now I'm always like, what if they take my laptop? Which they like don't want it. Like, plus there's like nothing to steal in my house except like, I mean, they don't probably want my books, and my collection of teapots, which means nothing to them. I mean, they're not even like expensive teapots. They're like cheap stuff, and some of them are like fairly nice, but most of them are like, I got this at Goodwill for $1.99, and it's shaped like a house, but it's a teapot. Like, so you know, I got that. But long story short, guys, I don't keep notes, and I keep my computer with me so that no one can steal it. Okay, good times.
Well, I think we've just given your worst enemy the exact information they need to know to ruin your life. Just get that laptop.
Right?
Without saying in specifics, we're both Hoosiers. And when I lived not too terribly far from you in that neighborhood, we talked about wink, wink, wink.
Yeah.
I lost the first 10 chapters of all together now because I hadn't backed that one up. And thank God it was only 10 chapters. If it had been more, the version that the Steamed audience got was probably better. So I wrote it better the second time. But if it had been like 25, 30 chapters, it might have just been time for a new book. So it was good that it was low on, but I got the chapter, I got the laptop stolen, and my wife calls me, she's in tears, she's like, oh, we've been robbed, our beautiful 3D television's gone, all your video games. I said, oh, not my video games. And I said, but honey, are my Batman action figures still there? Like, nobody stole your dolls, they're fine. Like, okay, well then it wasn't that bad. We're gonna be all right.
Right? Like, they take my TV, like, okay, that's
more motivation to read. Thank you for removing the distraction.
Right? Like, you can have my TV, but like, you come for my books, okay? Because like, now that I'm like an author and I get to go to all these events with like super cool authors, I get all these signed copies. So I'm like, oh, they're not steal my signed copies of my books, you know? Like, one, like they would even want the books. Two, they wouldn't even know which ones are signed. So
I love to imagine careful thieves that will pull each one out to check. That one's on the pile. This one, no.
So I have like a couple bedrooms in my house, and one of them is just pretty much kind of empty. I actually call it my Instagram room, and it's my costume closet. That's where all my costumes are. But for a while there, I had like all these elaborate setups around my book so I could take Instagram pictures, and it just looked like I had like a giant shrine to my book in this room. And like, you know, I would have like workmen come and like, you know, work on the air conditioning or do something in the attic, and they'd walk by this room and just see this giant massive shrine of stuff around, like Tiger Queen with like tiger paraphernalia and all this stuff, and they're probably just like, well, that's a weird one, like, just keep walking, guys. So I don't know, I like to think my weirdness just scared them away, but you know, that and my alarm system. So just be warned, guys, if you try to rob me, I do have an alarm system. So,
and 5 ferocious dogs and a bunch of AK-47s in a case, the one under your pillow. Nobody tried to rob Annie Sullivan.
I don't, this is going to sound so awful. I don't have guns, but I have a lot of swords and daggers and machetes, which sounds really weird, guys. I know. The swords, okay, so like, I studied abroad in Spain in high school. Super cool program. You lived with a family. You were only allowed to speak Spanish or you got sent home. So like, yeah, total immersion. It was awesome. And at the end of this program, we went to Toledo, which is known for its metalworking. And so we like all bought swords, you know, as one does. And so I had this amazing sword. And then my mom had some old swords. And so I just like kind of like commandeered them for Instagram pictures and stuff. So I've got like a collection of swords. I've got a really cool Egyptian dagger. I've even got, for those of you who can see video, I've got this like weird little, like, I don't know if these are supposed to be like little toothpicks or what, but there's like this little sword carrier thing. I don't know. I like that thing.
Really awesome.
Yeah, they're super cool. Again, so I've got like little things all over. And then I have a machete that is not mine. When I moved in, the previous owners of the house like left this giant machete in the master closet. So I was just like, okay, I guess I'll just keep the machete. So
You can't throw it out. You never know when you might need a machete.
I know. So now I have a machete in my master closet for no reason because I'm like, I don't know what to do with it. You guys can comment. Give me tips.
I had a friend that aspired to martial arts, and he had a bunch of martial arts weapons that he would train with. And he actually did have somebody come into his house, creep into the window while he was sleeping in his room. And then the guy came in while he was sleeping, and despite having all the weapons and his training, my buddy mostly slept through it, because he had a camera recording, because this is how paranoid he was. He recorded, like it was Paranormal Activity movie. He recorded his room, so he knew that somebody had come in far enough to see all the weapons and then left. Effective enough, I guess.
So I just need to hang the weapons up instead of just like propping them in a corner. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, just make sure that they're visible.
Okay. All right, I'll have to work on this. I mean, I'm pretty short and unintimidating, so like I need to work on like my battle cry or something in case someone breaks in. So
when they break in, you put your Princess Cora away and you break out your Katari and you're ready to go.
Yes. Oh man, I'll just pull out some of her quotes or like evil things that I was gonna spoil things. I'm not gonna say that other people in the book would say. So
you could spoil if there were, I don't know, maybe some Easter eggs in the series that might be worth drawing attention to. I don't know if there are such things, or if we would want to comment on them, even if there were.
There definitely are some Easter eggs in my books, in most of them actually. I do it a lot with names, especially in A Curse of Gold when you guys get that one. But also I did it in Tiger Queen with some things. There are some family stories that made it into A Curse of Gold. Yeah, there's a
time your father turned you into gold. Absolutely, that makes sense.
I don't want people to know that because then they're gonna think we have more gold, and I don't want them to break in. We just went through that. Like
that's true.
No, I definitely love There's actually here's a fun fact because I love, and maybe we talked about this last time. I can't remember. I love the old show, The Twilight Zone.
And I think we did. Yes, you spoiled the old Twilight Zone.
Oh yes, I love that.
Not everybody's going to listen to both episodes. Go ahead. Let's talk Twilight Zone again briefly.
Well, I just bring it up because in A Curse of Gold, there's one tiny. It's like not even a full sentence. It's like this tiny phrase within a sentence that I put in there for my love of the Twilight Zone, and like no one will probably ever pick up on it but me. But it's in there. And I love it. And my editor tried to take it out. She's like, this is not a necessary part of the sentence. And I was like, oh, yes, it is. It is very necessary. And we need to keep that line. And she was like, whatever. Keep being weird, Annie. And I'm like, it's fine. An Easter egg.
So has your editor just accepted that she can get you to comply and work along, so long as she plays by your weird rules and leaves the little trophies, the little Easter eggs that are just for you. You'll make the other changes.
Our editor and I, because I mean, in my day job, I'm also an editor, right? So I'm a proofreader. I have to be a grammar expert, all these kind of things. And so my poor copy editor and I will go toe to toe over like a comma, and I feel so bad because I'm like, it needs a comma. And she's like, no comma. And I'm like, add the comma. Like, so don't tell her this, but sometimes when she's not looking, I'll turn off track changes and then just put the comma back in and then turn on back track changes. Because, when you edit the document, you're supposed to like track all your changes so they can see. And so I'll just back in the comma. Okay? It needs a comma.
This is word nerd warfare.
It's so bad. It's like, and it's funny because I swear sometimes that she just takes it back out again and doesn't tell me, and then I'm like, oh, she took it out, and I'll put it back in. And then I just kind of like is like 50-50 on whose version is like the last one when it goes to printing. So it's
So
fun.
then you have to go back through and check to see which one of you snuck commas in or out before the
Right. No, we're not that bad, but yeah, sometimes I'm just like, no, it needs the comma. It has to have that comma. Such an important comma. Don't get me started on the Oxford comma like that. There's no debate there, okay, people? Just use it. It's like a mask right now. You need to wear the mask. Use the Oxford comma, okay? All I'm gonna say.
Some people are gritting their teeth and actively cursing us as they're hearing that.
They're like, and I'm turning this one off, not buying that book. Or now we're gonna like look at all the commas and be like, well, that's wrong. That's a wrong comma. They're like, Annie was wrong. And I'm like, well, that's one my editor put in. So there. No, probably on me. You just blame it all on your editor. Be like, oh yeah, she totally snuck that one in there.
It's just book people. I know I wasn't in quite a shouting match, but there were definitely raised voices with a critique partner about whether the space should go ahead of the ellipses or after the ellipses. And the answer is after, unless you're a monster. But she disagreed.
Right. Some people just like, they're so like, they're set in their ways. And it's so hard to change sometimes. So I get that. I'm obviously that way too with a lot of things. Oxford comma, which I mean, again, we're not going to go there, guys, because it's not a debate. I've had friends, I will say this, I'm very proud of this. I have a friend at work who was brought up on AP style, which does not use the Oxford comma. And the only reason they don't use the Oxford comma is because back in the day when you actually typeset newspapers, you needed that extra space when you printed the newspaper, so you would take out the Oxford comma. That's like the only reason they didn't use it, you guys. And so like she grew up on the AP style, and I finally have converted her to Oxford and to use the Oxford comma again. And I'm like, see, it makes everybody feel better.
I would like to point out that we have talked about several life and death, like literal life and death issues over the course of this conversation. This is the most impassioned you have yet been about this comma.
Don't come for my Oxford comma, okay? Actually, you will see in the acknowledgments. I know it's in the acknowledgments for A Touch of Gold. I said to always use the Oxford comma. And you know what? There's a missing Oxford comma in the acknowledgments. It hurts.
Was that the kind of thing where every time you go to sign somebody's book, you're like, hold on, flip to the back, add a comma. There you are. Take that with you.
Like, just needed that one extra comma, guys. Yeah, no, it's okay. It could be one mistake. It's fine. It's in the acknowledgement, so at least it like doesn't matter.
Yeah, I can see by how common and easygoing you are at this moment that it does not matter whatsoever. It's not a concern.
Oh yeah. See, this is why my company obviously pays me the big bucks when I send out those emails, because someone's got to know where the commas go, and that's me, guys. So.
Well, you want to hire somebody who's passionate about that sort of thing, who will go spy with another editor to make sure the commas are where they need to be. Of course, the English language is constantly evolving and changing. My wife hit the roof here recently because they officially put irregardless in the dictionary, which I've been using for years, mostly because I know it drives her nuts. So I will occasionally find my spot for an irregardless, and now it's less fun because I'm not breaking any rules. It's
right. Fun. I know. It's hard. It's like you got to keep up with all the new stuff, but then you're like, do I use it? And like in my own writing, it's super cool. At work, it's harder because like for the longest time, the word internet had to be capitalized, and so like I would catch so many like or even like we had this standardized saying of like email. Is email just, one word, or is it e-mail? Like, and do you capitalize the E? Like, all these things you have to, like, work out and have this, like, style guide for. And so, as it's becoming more and more common and, like, things do shift. And so now I'm like, I'm okay if internet's not capitalized. Like, I'm okay with that in my everyday life. But for work, I have to be on top of that. And I have to know, like, who's capitalizing it, who's not. Like, are we on trend? Are we doing the right things? Like, yeah. So it is a lot of work. And so it's something that I pay very particular attention to in my day job, which is probably why I'm so passionate about it, because like it comes back to me. If that content is not right in some way, I feel like that's on me. So
I did a soft re-release and reissue of All Together Now when Walmart removed their hyphen. Oh, come on, Walmart! But I didn't want to be wrong forever, so that hyphen had to go.
Right. See, it's all those little things like you just never. And that's the nice thing about fantasy is like fantasy doesn't change per se. I mean, it's just like it's in a fantasy world, it's all good, you know. So that's also why I love writing.
There's no Walmarts in the fantasy world. That's where I'm writing from now on. I've been burned before. What's next? Yeah, McDonald's adds an apostrophe? Get out of here.
You can have that robotic wolf, and that robotic wolf can do whatever he wants in the fantasy world.
Yeah, go to McDonald's and Walmart. I assume that's where a robot wolf would naturally be inclined to go.
Right? Well, I mean, I know where I'm going after this, and that's to watch SHARKTOPUS vs Whale. How do you say werewolf? Whalewolf.
Werewolf, and it's honestly it's not better. It's not as good as SHARKTOPUS. So just set your expectation appropriately. It's Casper Van Dien is the star after he's been around for a minute. He's looking pretty rough. You could tell that I don't even know if his makeup before they filmed included a shower. He just kind of rolled out of bed like, oh my god, how much are they paying me for this again? Fine. Oh no, it's SHARKTOPUS. Casper Van Dien out.
See, the funny thing is I would do those movies for free, okay? Like, sign me up. I will be your, like, token little blonde girl who runs around and, like, it's like, oh, no, we're going to be eaten. Like, eat me. I want to be eaten by a shark in your movie, people. Like, sign me up for this. I will do it for free. I will pay you to, like, let me come out there and do this. That's how passionate I am. You know, between the Oxford comma and the shark movie. So, I mean, you said the title and I was already sold. I was like, my expectations were already set. Okay, like I've got this.
No, I knew it. You and me, we're right here. We're in sync when it comes to the important stuff.
Yes. In fact, my Shark Week friends are going to be jealous if I watch this movie without them, but they can't come in my house right now. So
virtual watch party.
Maybe you said it was on.
You can get your Fin cup and put a little bit of red wine in there. You're not drinking alone if it's a virtual party.
Fun fact, I don't drink, but I can put in I have some red Gatorade. I'll just put in my red Gatorade and be like, guys, you're missing out.
All you need, really.
You say it's on Amazon or?
It was, yeah. I'm trying to think how long ago. It's been like a couple of weeks. It's probably still on there.
It better be, because if it's not, I'm going to be really disappointed. And then I'm going to have to buy it.
For esteemed audience, I know I recommended this one to you last time we talked, but I never get tired of recommending it. Crawl is right now presently on Amazon Prime. So if you haven't seen Crawl yet, it's actually a good movie. Not like the SHARKTOPUS versus Werewolf, which I assure you is terrible. Crawl is I feel obligated to recommend a movie that people that don't love terrible shark movies can also enjoy. You'll watch some alligators eat folks.
Is Crawl based on spiders or snakes or what is it?
That one's alligators.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it's good. It's like with a big budget. It's like, actually genuinely terrifying.
Like Lake Placid level? Where are we talking? Like? Oh
no, it's like it was my favorite movie the year it came out. It's a genuinely good movie. It's a hurricane comes into a town and the father and daughter get trapped in the crawl space of a house, thus Crawl, which is a terrible movie. Just call it Alligators Attack. Don't make people expect it. It's called Crawl, but trust me, there's alligators. But they're next to an alligator farm. Isn't that always the way? Mm-hmm. And the alligators get in the crawl space with them as well and chase them around for almost 2 hours.
That does happen. When I was in Africa, actually, we were boating down a river. And our guide was saying how a couple years ago, the local alligator farm flooded and a whole bunch of the little ones got loose. I mean, obviously there were already some in the river, but a whole bunch more got loose in the river. Yeah. And my sister and I actually did it's like a mix between like a zip line and a bungee jump. It's kind of like you free fall for a while and then you swing. And we did that over a river and there were like crocodiles, alligators. I always get them mixed up. Like just hanging out in the river. And I was like, this seems safe if we fall. Seems fine.
Well, round nose. Is the big giveaway alligator versus crocodile. So as you're being chomped, let's kind of look down. Is it the nose rounded or is it pointy? If it's pointy, you are being killed by a crocodile. If it's rounded, it's an alligator that's polishing you off.
Isn't there something to do with like the teeth? Doesn't one of them have like teeth outside or something?
Yeah, I think that's the alligator, but it's been so long I couldn't 100% swear to it.
Right. See,
I feel like that's true.
Maybe if I watch Crawl, I'll know better. You know.
Well, this is one of the hard things. I don't know if this is true for you, but for me, like if I'm researching something for a story, I know it intensely. I'm not going to go all presidential and say I'm the greatest expert that ever was on that subject, but I am as expert as I need to be on that subject to get the story done and make sure it's right. I will have it down, but then the moment it's written down and I've edited it, revised it, and it's out in the world, I'm happy with it. I don't know those facts anymore because I've cleared them out to make way for the new facts that I need for the next story. It's very frustrating. Does that happen to you, or no? It's all up here all the time with you.
Mostly it's all up here most of the time, but I would honestly also say like I don't do as much research as a lot of people. Like I get what I need and I get out. Like so yeah, I don't know. I mean, but like something that I love though, like sharks, I could tell you like, you know, tons of things about sharks. But yeah, you asked me about an alligator and a crocodile, and I'm like, I don't know which one is which. So
when are we going to get the Annie Sullivan shark book?
Yeah, I want to be on Shark Week, so I need to write a book. I need to write like some sort of book about sharks because I could tell you guys, like, I don't know. I watched way too much Shark Week as like a kid growing up, so imagine what like, you know, years upon years of watching all of that stuff. You know, like, do you know there's a cookie cutter shark? It's this little tiny shark that swims up from the depths and just takes a bite out of something and then swims away. And it like that's what they call it, the cookie cutter shark. So it leaves like a little like almost like a cookie cutter like jagged circle in its prey and just takes a bite and swims away. So fun fact.
I just wanted to give you a good story to tell the rest of your life. Goodbye.
Right. I mean, I don't think it really goes after humans or anything. Oh, the oceanic white tips. Those are the ones you got to watch out for, guys. They're like the garbage, you know, cans of the ocean. They will like eat anything. And they actually think that those are actually probably one of the most deadly sharks, and no one talks about them because this is going to get really depressing. But like, they probably think that like, was it like PT-109? Like a lot of the ships that went down, probably oceanic white tips that ate a lot of those people, and that's why they're probably technically the number one killer, but no one can verify that. But
well, no one alive.
Yeah, no one alive. So watch out for those guys. If you're in the middle of the ocean, they're probably the ones who are gonna find you. So be prepared. Watch Shark Week so you know how to fend them off, guys. Or watch Sharktopus versus Whalewolf because that sounds amazing and fun and educational. So. Or
if you're in the Hoosier State landlocked, just stay out of the ocean. It's pretty easy. I've mostly managed it. Well, I promised that we would talk a little bit about promotion. I try always to keep my promise to esteemed audience. So I want to talk about promotion, not social media, because again, we covered that. You covered it more expertly than it could ever be covered in episode 40. Everyone should be listening to it. But you've been on the road prior to quarantine, and now you're preparing to launch a book during quarantine. So let's talk a little bit about, let's talk about your amazing launch party, because I've never seen anything like that for Tiger Queen. Let's start there, and we'll eventually work our way to what your plans are for Curse of Gold, now that we're going to have to be doing a promotion through quarantine. How do you get a launch party put together the way yours was for Tiger? How many people were there for people that weren't there?
There were a couple hundred, 200 or 300 people there, which is actually smaller than a Touch of Gold. At Touch of Gold, there were like 400 people. Yeah, it was. We had to like start talking about like fire code limits, all this kind of stuff, and we knew that going in. One of the benefits of, I guess, of being born and raised in the Hoosier State is, I have a big network of friends, family, people here. So yeah, it was so nice to just have all these people. So what we did at the book launches, obviously the cake is one of like the most important things for me because you guys, I love cake so much. And so for A Touch of Gold, and you can actually see all these pictures on my Instagram. A Touch of Gold, the cake was it's like the size of a wedding cake, with like 4 tiers, and around the edge of it was a whole bunch of book spines made out of fondant, so it was edible. And I got to pick all the books that I wanted written on it, and so it was just like these towers of books, and that was a ton of fun. And then for Tiger Queen, it was a like life-size tiger that they actually thought it might collapse the table because it weighed so much. I think it was like the heaviest cake they've ever made, and they couldn't even tell me how much it weighed. It was a lot.
And they didn't get to it for a while. I mean, most of the first people in the line were getting sheet cake before they actually started cutting up the tiger. I don't know. I don't remember my son got to the actual tiger if he just ate all your sheet cake. But he ate his fill.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, there were some sheet cakes shaped like the book, and then there was the giant tiger. And we did the sheet cake so that, some people could like look at the tiger for a while. And then we ended up with like half the tiger left, which is fine because my mom actually volunteers at a soup kitchen on a weekly basis. So we send all the extra cake down there. We're like, have some delicious cake. And they're like, thank you. This is awesome. So we do that. But yeah, a lot actually goes into planning that. I mean, first, it's like a team effort. Really, my mom is like the main help there. She, helps me coordinate because we always have like color coordinated decorations and plates and napkins and tablecloths and forks. And for A Touch of Gold, I even put up like a photo booth area. I can't remember if I did that for Tiger Queen or not, but like, I had brought in all these like gold themed props, like a gold boa that goes around your neck and big gold glasses and gold crowns and things you could dress up. And I really wanted it to just be a fun experience. Plus, I knew the signing line would be very long to get to me. So I wanted people to have things that they could do while they were waiting that would be fun. We did a lot of giveaways as well. And so one thing we did, we went to a couple local companies and we said, hey, we're going to have this massive event. Would you like to just give us like a $20 gift card, because the event's like right across the street from here. People will know this area, they'll come back here. And so a couple people did that. So we put together some really nice gift baskets as well. And yeah, it was a big party. We tend to do a lot of decorations. I know A Touch of Gold, we gave out like golden bead necklaces to everybody, all that kind of stuff. So it's a big production. There's a lot. I mean, I like to say it's like planning a mini wedding, like every time I do one, which is a lot because I mean, yeah, you're thinking about.
No, I've been to weddings that were not as nice as your signing.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot that goes into it. Just ahead of time, from the planning, from even the day of, like I have a schedule written out for everybody of who needs to be where, when, what time, who's bringing what, who's setting up what, where are things going. I would walk, it was at Barnes & Noble, and so I would walk with the store manager ahead of time and be like, this is going here, let's put this here, let's talk about how this goes here, and how the flow of the line would move and things like that. And so we had to actually like go in and walk through that all because we knew we would have so many people at these events. And so this year, like we're getting to now, is going to be completely different. And I actually don't think I'll probably be able to have any sort of in-person launch party, which is super sad because those are always my favorite event because it's just full of people that I know and love who are there to support me. And it's just such a special time. And actually, in Tiger Queen, if you open it up your copy, you will see that one of the people it's dedicated to is actually my English teacher from middle school. And so one thing we did at the launch party is we surprised her. She actually did not know that the book was being dedicated to her. We managed to keep it a secret. And when her copy arrived a few days before the launch party, her husband intercepted it in the mailbox and was able to hide it from her until they got to the party. And she kept being like, where's my book? Can you just give it to me? And he's like, oh, I got it in my pocket. It's fine. I'll give it to you later. And then we were able to surprise her in front of her family, who they had secretly invited, and honor her because she is the one who had taught me that short story, The Lady or the Tiger. So we were able to kind of honor her in that way. So it's a big production of like, at this hour we honor her, and then this we do the questions. And so like, yes. And now it's going to be completely different. I'm probably going to do some sort of online launch party, and maybe even a couple online launch parties. I know a couple Facebook groups have offered to host me. So keep your eyes on my social media. We'll see what happens there. I'm still working on pre-order giveaways. I do love a good pre-order incentive. I don't know whether I have a couple of items already sort of picked out. I'm waiting to hear back on a few more before I make final decisions, but I love doing pre-order incentives because I think gifts are probably my love language. So I'm like, yes, have a gift. You bought my book. Like, let me give something to you. So I love doing that, and it's always fun to just kind of do that research. And yeah, even just, doing events like this amazing podcast, talking to people, doing anything I can to kind of get the word out about the book, knowing that there won't be as many opportunities as there were in the past to kind of go and tell people about it.
Of course, this is your second appearance, so you know about the middle grade ninja bump that you immediately experience and can see it across your book sales like a tidal wave moving through. So I'm sure that will be helpful. What type of thing makes for a good? I know you haven't finalized what you're going to be doing this time around, but what makes for a good gift to give somebody that's not going to break the bank?
I think it really does depend. My first book, I went really big, and so I actually gave out these little mirrors they're gold, and they're like little compact mirrors, and they're shaped like a golden rose, which actually kind of mirrors, oddly enough, the cover of A Touch of Gold, which has a little golden rose and a golden hand. So that was really fun because it was just such a nod to the book. And the book is all about like finding the beauty in yourself, and loving yourself the way you are. So that was kind of just a really fun thing to do. Tiger Queen, I did a enamel pen because those were super popular for a while. They still are pretty popular. And that was fun. I did an enamel pen. I think I did a signed book plate, maybe a bookmark. I think that's what I did for that one. And so I think for A Curse of Gold, I've got a couple different options, but I think what you want to find is something that encompasses your book, that speaks to your book. And it could just be something digital. I've done digital things. Actually, for Tiger Queen, I also gave away digital posters and digital printouts of what we call the Creature Guide to Accra, because Tiger Queen is set in a very harsh desert with lots of creatures that I came up with. There's like the fire-legged fly, which is named because if it lands on you, its legs are so hot they like burn your skin and leave little burns. There's the Grieving Spider, which is called the Grieving Spider because if you get bitten, everyone around you will be grieving because you're going to die. It's that poisonous. So it's all these creatures. And so my editor was like, let's make a guide. And so it goes really in depth for those who want it to like, oh, you like this creature? Well, it can be ground up to make, flour or something and bread. And this one is used to make red dye. And this one, helps with headaches and things like that. So it was like really in depth. So it can be really fun things that you can do. I have a friend who gives away like different types of tea with her pre-order stuff. I think flat things are easier to ship. I definitely go the more expensive route because I'm like gifts. Everybody gets gifts. I'm like Oprah. I'm like, you get a gift and you get a gift. Everyone. But flat things and digital things are obviously much, much cheaper. But yeah, it's just kind of like, what do you want? And then you have to decide if you're going to keep it, local to like US Canada. Are you going to do international? Because international can get really expensive really quickly. So yeah, there's a lot that goes into figuring out a pre-order incentive. And then you can even have on top of that, like, do you have one person who gets like a big prize that you choose, and then like everybody gets things? So there's a couple different ways you can run them. But I tend to run my own. So like if you were entering, I'm the one. My mom helps. She's huge help. She helps me like address all the envelopes and stuff, and make sure everyone gets everything. But yeah, it's a lot that goes into making sure everything gets done. But bookmarks are a good thing. Book plates, especially nowadays, the times we're in, book plates are great because people probably aren't going to have a chance to come see me anywhere because I'm not traveling. So book plates are a great way for them to kind of have a signed book, even if I'm not able to do that. So that's something I definitely want to have on my pre-order incentive, is a signed book plate, so that everyone who kind of wants that ability to add a signature to their book has it, even if they can't come see me.
And this is it's not your first rodeo. This is book number 3 coming up. And this is I just imagine, a relatively significant investment up front, because I know you're also running ads from our previous conversation on all sorts of platforms, and we'll continue doing that. And so how do you go about setting your budget, and how do you make sure that you've made your money back plus your profit and all that good stuff? Or is it all like, we're hoping that works out, we'll see what we'll see?
It's a lot of like, let's hope that works out. And then sometimes I'm like, I'll do another ad and another one. And then I get the bill and I'm like, what have I spent that much? Because those like $25 here, $50 here, they add up pretty quickly. But at the same time, I always looked at my first book as an investment. I always said, like, I will spend what it takes to hopefully get noticed, to get the word out there, to get people talking about it, because I want it to be a career, right? I don't want it to be a one-hit wonder. And so I think, you know, you have to invest money to make money often is the case. And so I was not so much concerned with that. I kind of looked at it like, oh, here's the money we're paying you for this book. Is like, okay, that's my marketing budget, which I'm like, okay, I'll do that. So I think that's kind of how I look at it more, is it's an investment to be able to do future books, because this is what I love. I love to write. And so, yeah, honestly, like, I probably don't make much money at all right now still, even with book 3, because I do put so much into, you know, pre-order incentives, even just traveling. I mean, my publisher will often send me to 1 or 2 events, but I'm often doing 8 or 10 events a year. And so those other ones are on me, and I've got to cover that.
You're not charging the venue? Or having the venue at least kind of help out?
I wish, but they're often like smaller events. So they don't cover those. So that would be nice, but hopefully someday I'll actually get paid for this writing. So yes, please go pre-order my books so that I can write more books.
What lies ahead? Have you got anything you can announce or talk about beyond Curse of Gold at this moment?
No, actually, which is so surprising for me, because I try to like always have like an iron in the fire. And I think, like I said, I wrote that one book that needs revision, and I was just like, I don't want to revise that right now. So I'm writing my shiny new thing, and I'm loving it. And I really hope that if I can finish it, it'll be something that'll be really, really cool. But it's just going very slowly. So it's going to take a couple more months to really
Are
get
you
it going.
finding that now that you're living hermit life, your dreams have come true? Are you finding that is speeding up your writing or slowing you down, or is it about the same?
For a while there, it was slowing me down. At the very beginning of being quarantined, I couldn't write at all. And then I revised that one book and sent it off. So that also happened during quarantine. So I just recently kind of started this new shiny thing. But then I kind of fell into a slump again, with not writing as I should have been. And thankfully I had a good friend, one of my Shark Week friends, shout out to Savannah Goins. She wrote The Glyphinian. You guys should check it out. Yeah, she actually was like, Annie, I'm going to challenge you to get to chapter 8 by Thursday. And that was like last week, and I obviously did not get there. But because she knows that's like my breaking point, my kind of good bad point. But she's been calling me every single week on Thursday now, being like, are you there? Are you there? So she's been a really good accountability person to kind of like spur me on, because I'm a very competitive person. So like if someone says like, oh, can you make this deadline? I'm like, yeah, I'll make that deadline. So yeah, it's definitely been helpful to have that. But also, if you're out there, if you're a writer, don't be too hard on yourself if things are not going the way you planned right now. I think a lot of us are having trouble writing. That seems to be a common theme. So I'm just working on this new thing. Super excited about the premise. But yeah, not going to share anything because it's still so early in the process. You never know.
Well, last time we talked, I already asked you about flying saucers, and you gave us a pretty swell flying saucer story. I don't know if you've seen any since that previous episode.
I don't think so. I mean, you never know for sure, but I don't think so.
Well, something I've started doing is expanding that question to include, have you ever seen a ghost? Because I've discovered that Whoisher authors see ghosts like on the regular. I had the 4 authors from the Speed City Sisters of Crime on here for our 4th of July episode, esteemed audience. If you missed it, go back and check it out. We talked writing. We talked respectable mystery plotting. But we got to flying saucers and ghost, and every one of them had a story. And I said, "Oh my God, I love my state. This is this is why you want to be a Hoosier." So no pressure. But have you ever seen a ghost?
I don't think I have. However, I will tell you right now. I don't know if you can see it. You guys who are listening can't see it, but in the background of my video, you can see I have this sculpture, and you can, again, find him on my Instagram. I've nicknamed him Leonard. He is actually a sculpture of a tiger with a giant tiger paw coming out of a copy of Tiger Queen. A very cool artist made him for me. Her name is Eileen Boss. And he is situated in the corner of one of my rooms, so that, like, as soon as you walk down the hallway, all you see is this white paw reaching out. And every time I turn around in that hallway, I could swear there's someone reaching out to get me. I should just move him. Like, that would be the easy thing to do. But, you know, it takes effort because then I have to find a new place to put him. So, and I've already, like, completely rearranged my house once during COVID. So I'm starting round 2, guys. I'm, like, rearranging because I've run out of things to do. But yeah, no ghosts that I know of. So I'm sorry. I have to let you down on that one.
No, keep an eye out. By episode 3, I'll be asking you about the Loch Ness monster, and by God, we'll get
Hey, I do. I got that one, okay, because I also studied abroad in Ireland, and when I was there, we went on a weekend trip to Scotland. Flew in this, like, 1980s plane, you guys. Like, I don't even know how it still existed. And we went to Loch Ness. I'm just saying, I got some pictures. I don't know, you guys. I don't know what's there, okay? I don't know. The mystery is... Yeah.
You've got pictures that you're going to be sharing on Instagram or someplace where we can see this Loch Ness monster?
I mean, they're pretty blurry, and actually, like, I mean, it does look... I know what it is, but it does look like a monster. My sister's like, oh, what is that? What is that? And I'm like, I'll never tell. So I'll have to... Maybe I'll share some with you guys of little young Annie from, like, 10 years ago. I don't know if it's 10 years ago. I can't do math, so.
Eddie, we'll end on this. I want to ask you for writing advice again, since I feel like we nailed that previously. Instead, I'd like to ask you and kind of get a snapshot of Annie Sullivan about to launch book 3. As of this moment, what's been your favorite thing about being an author, and what's been your least favorite thing?
Oh, man. I think my favorite thing is just, like, this is so awful. Actually, my favorite thing, if I'm not going to lie, is getting to meet all the other authors that I love. Like, you know, I get to go and meet, you know, Marissa Meyer or Stephanie Garber or Gail Carson Levine, or, like, all these just amazing authors that I have loved for years. And then I'm like, oh, I'm in the same room with them. I'm on the same panel with them. Like, I ate seaweed with Gail Carson Levine, who wrote, you know, Ella Enchanted, all this stuff. And I'm just like, well, yes, that just happened to me, you know? So, like, I love that. It's so much fun. But I'm also just being an author, just writing stories. I love getting to use my imagination. I probably should have done the one I don't like first, and then we could have ended on a happy note. But, I mean, it can be a very depressing kind of job and very lonely. I'm a hermit, I get it. But, like, you're often getting told, no, you're not good enough. Like, that is the hard part, is finding an agent, getting a publisher, all that kind of stuff. So I probably said this in my last interview, but, like, don't give up. Like, if that's you, don't give up, because you can do it. You know, you could be here. That's the other thing, is, like, time goes so quickly. I cannot believe I have my 3rd book coming out. Like, it feels like 2 years ago I was crying, like, I'm not good enough. No one wants me. I'm never going to be published. And now here I am with my 3rd book, you know? So things can turn around so quickly. So don't give up, you guys. You can do it. I believe in you, and I can't wait to see you guys on Middle Grade Ninja in an episode coming up.
We nailed it. That's the perfect way to end. That's 2 episodes. Boom. 3rd episode. A lot of pressure, honestly.
Okay, I'm going to start preparing now. Like, get ready.
Annie, where can the esteemed audience find you online, all that good stuff?
Yeah, you can find me at authorAnnieSullivan.com. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at ANNSULLIVA. Again, that's ANNSULLIVA. You'll immediately recognize my feed. It's full of Tiger Queen and A Touch of Gold and book stuff. And I love to interact with people. So please send me a tweet, send me an Instagram message, anything. Like, I'm happy to talk with you guys if you have other questions, anything like that. There's also a contact form on my website that comes directly to me. So if you ever have questions about things, or just want to say, like, hey, I love the book, or where can I find more about this or that, like, just drop me a line. Always happy to hear from you guys.
She's available 24/7. If you want somebody to read your manuscript, contact me. So no. But that is very generous of you to make yourself available. So I hope people will take advantage of not take advantage, take you up on the offer without taking advantage. As always, esteemed audience, find me at middlegradeninja.com. You know who I am. Download your free copy of Banneker or Bones and the Giant Robot Bees. Get a free copy of the Book of David, Chapter 1. Go back a few episodes and listen to me read it to you. It was quarantine. I was going crazy. What a wonderful thing to have done. Record your own audiobook. It was a good time. And that's it. God willing, and I'm alive. I'll see you next week.